Hello and welcome to another Invalid Opinion video. Now, you may notice, pretty obvious, that this video does not have any actual video. It's just going to be me talking this time. I'm going to try to switch things up. I'm making this a little bit easier on myself. Just going to record it. Just record the audio. Also, the audio on the last video, I heard the feedback from the two people that watched it, that the audio wasn't too great. So here I'm using the dedicated recorder, dedicated mic. So sound quality is going to be better, and the video quality is going to be non-existent. And anyway, so here I'm going to be reviewing the documentary Apollo 11. It just recently came out this weekend, and it's a documentary about Apollo 11, the first time humanity went to the moon. Now, just to start off, it's a documentary, and right now, I feel like around this time there have been a lot of films that focus on kind of like space and the moon, Mars, a lot of space films, and I kind of like that. I do really appreciate those types of films. I'm going to make a few comparisons with First Man, which came out like a month or so ago as well, just because they have the same topic, both about the journey to the moon. Now, obviously, there are differences. One's a dramatization and one's a documentary. And one of the big differences is, First Man, it covers, is basically the sort of Neil Armstrong, from before starting the Apollo journey, kind of like how he was a test pilot, flew a few experimental aircraft, stuff like that. And then it kind of, towards the second half of the film, he actually takes a journey to the moon. And the journey itself, it's kind of the short, it's the climax. Here with Apollo 11, it starts off like just hours before the ship launches, before Apollo 11 takes off. And it's all just actual footage from the time period. And it's extremely good quality. It's incredible. I think what I heard is that they initially had plans to release a movie like this just after the Apollo missions completed. But during that time, the public's opinion on the Apollo, was taking up a lot of money, a lot of resources. It just wasn't too hot. So releasing the movie, it probably wasn't going to do that well at the time. So they kind of just sat on this really great footage until right now that everybody loves space again, right? And yeah, it's really great. I saw it in IMAX. I recommend you watch it in IMAX if you watch it as well. It's fantastic. But yeah, you start off just before the rocket takes off, and it ends when the astronauts come home. It doesn't end when they plant the flag or when they make it to the moon. You get the return journey as well. I really love that. And it definitely feels like you're along for the ride. You're really close to the astronauts. You just see them suiting up. And again, that ground footage is spectacular. Now, it does kind of drop in quality quite significantly once they make it to space. I'm assuming because, they're using cinema-grade cameras, and those cameras are pretty heavy. And, when you're trying to go to space, you're trying to save as much weight as possible. So the space cameras are pretty bad. I think at one point in the film, they were like, yeah, switching to 1 frame per second. So, that's... Expect a huge difference when you're in space versus when you're the cameras or the footage is from Earth. Just know that going forward or going into it. Now, unlike most historical documentaries, there really isn't any cuts to the present. Where someone's talking or explaining things, or they're just like explaining what's going on. There's no jump cuts to like present to past. It's all in the past. It's all just footage from the past. The people explaining it are actually kind of the actual technicians on monitoring over there, just saying what's going on, what's happening, and you kind of hear the astronauts saying what's going on as well. Now, there are a few times where they have like a little diagram of what's going on, like a modern diagram. It kind of says, this is what's happening. This is at what point they're on. It's like a Earth and moon with a little spaceship in between. Like, here the spaceship's going to rotate. Here the spaceship's going to start the thrusters to actually go off to the moon. Right now it's just in orbit, and then it's going to take off on its journey. Little stuff like that. It helps. Definitely break it down for those who aren't super familiar, with the space mechanics and the way everything works. I like that as well. The documentary also has a very good soundtrack, although you don't hear it too much. Most of the time is just the people talking, just seeing, taking it all in. The only time there was really a lot of music is whenever there was a countdown. Obviously the initial countdown when the rocket takes off, very intense, like almost like drums, like a beating kind of music kind of there. And then when the thruster started the escape from Earth's gravity and escape from Moon's gravity, and the countdown for re-entry. That's really the only time I really noticed any music, just during the countdowns. A little bit towards the end as well, but the music was minimal, but very good when it was there. I do like how the film focused. I mean, it didn't focus too much on it, but we did get to see it. How the astronauts got picked up when on the return. We got to see the return itself, and whenever they came back to Earth. And most films, kind of just brush over this, and I guess it was kind of a little bit of a brushing over as well, or not. It wasn't obviously the focus of the film, but it covered it. It then kind of just glanced over it. I appreciated that, and you got more of that footage during the end credits as well. So it was, it covered the whole trip, everything. I love that. So overall, I really liked the film. It was fantastic for a documentary, especially. It had like some real weight to it, especially because it was real. One thing I kind of didn't like about First Man, the dramatization, is like when they went to the moon, it was supposed to be really epic, but it still felt like CGI. It's like, hey, I know this is a rendered scene. It's not really doing anything for me. Here, low quality, fuzzy, but they were actually there. It's the real people, and it really hit me a lot harder because of that, because I knew that it was real. And just the scene when the rocket takes off, I feel like the first 10-15 minutes, man, that's worth the price of the ticket alone. But for me, 9 out of 10, really fantastic. Watch it in IMAX if you can, worth it. But yeah, it was just really solid. Again, 9 out of 10. Definitely worth watching. All right. I'm not sure. So the review's over. Again, it's going to talk about the state of the channel here a little bit if anybody cares. But I think most of my reviews going forward are probably going to be like this, just audio only. I'll try to have something playing there. Not sure which film I'm going to watch next, but I'm going to, again, try to watch more films. Hey, already two this month, or two this. But I am going to try to watch more films. And yeah, I'll post more in the future. See you guys later.